Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is going to be a really great topic. I am super excited about perennial edibles. Some of my favorites are in our topic today. I'm super excited for it. So today I am joined with Laura from Park Seed over here. Say hi, Laura. Laura, if you want to introduce yourself real quick, Laura works at Park Seed. She's incredible. She's my plant expert. Whenever I have any plant questions, I always go to her.
So my name is Laura Root. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Live Plants and Garden Accessories for J&P Park Acquisition. That's the parent company of Park Seed. I also am an advocate for growing your own food, and I've been in the industry for almost 12 years now, just various aspects of it. So I've done commercial growing, independent garden centers, e-commerce, big box store. I've landscape companies. I've kind of seen and dabbled in it all right now.
That's awesome. And then for those of you, I'm Carrie. Typically, I do have Dale right here as well, but we are both kind of struggling and feeling under the weather, as you might be able to tell with my face and voice. But we're pushing through it. But so it's just going to be me and Laura today. But Dale is in the chat, so he is over here talking to everybody in the chat box as well. And then we have Andrew helping out too. So we have everybody behind the scenes too today. And I see lots of great people in the chat already. Hi, everybody. I see we have a lot of different people from zones all around. I see some from our zone too. So I'm in zone 7 in Oklahoma, and I actually see some people saying hi from Oklahoma as well. So hi, everybody. I would love to see where everybody is from in there. Laura, did you say where you were from?
I did not. I'm in South Carolina. I'm in Zone 8.
Great. Awesome. Well, I'm super excited. We have a whole bunch of plants to talk with. It was difficult to narrow down all of these plants because there's really so many different edible perennials that I wanted to include in there, and I had to cut it down somewhere. So this is definitely not the be all and end all of it all. There are a lot that we're not even going to hit today, but I wanted to hit like some of the biggest topics and things like that. Um, yeah, so let's jump right in. So we're going to be talking all about the perennial edibles. And before I go any further, too, I do want to mention we are going to be giving away at the end of this live stream, we're going to be giving away a free 1-year premium from Seed to Spoon app subscription. So it's super exciting. You get a whole bunch of benefits with that. You get as many unlimited plants as you want to log in your garden. And whenever you're seed starting, you also get unlimited questions to GrowBot. And of course, the thing that I love the most is the free shipping on all of your orders if you are the 1-year free premium. So anything through the app you can get free shipping on, which is amazing. So definitely check that out. And we'll definitely be having a winner here today. So make sure you all are commenting in the chat and you'll be entered to win. And then also I do want to mention too, we have that QR code up at the corner for our app. So if you don't already have our app, make sure you check it out. Download that QR code right up there, or just scan that QR code. You can take a picture of it and you can click it that way. And then today we're also going to be giving away some smart pots. I'm super excited about this because a lot of these perennial edibles we're talking about, there's the 20-gallon smart pots are the perfect size for those. Even along with like the citrus trees and things like that, spoiler alert, that we're going to be talking about are perfect for these smart pots. So I was really excited to be doing a giveaway with smart pots as well for these perfect plants for them. Okay. So let's move on to our first plant that we are going to be talking about is asparagus. So I personally do not have a lot of experience with asparagus. So that's where Laura's going to come in huge handy for me on this one. I do want to call out a few things. So this slide, it's if you guys were with us last week, you'll see a lot of similarities. So with the plants, like we'll have the sun if it's a full sun, and then off to the side over here we have their height range because there's a bunch of different varieties. And then down on the bottom, we'll just hit a few different key things about the plants that we wanted to make sure that we got across. So Laura, do you want to tell us a little bit about asparagus?
Sure. I have a little bit of experience with asparagus, both from my childhood and now. Most of my experience has been learning from my mistakes. You read generic stuff like it takes a couple of years for you to actually get asparagus once you plant it. That is absolutely true. And especially it will even take longer to get a full harvest if you are impatient like myself and go past the patch and see one and pick it up and eat it. And my husband is guilty of doing the same thing. We are technically in our third year of our patch, and I do have some stalks that are about the size of your thumb. That's really what you want to look for. If it's not the size of your thumb, you want to let it grow and bolt. You will have a asparagus looking tree type forest, and that's okay. You want that prior to actually having a harvest. You want to have those fronds and those big tall things because those are going to send up photosynthesize and give energy for the roots. And that's really where all the energy comes when you want the sizes that's about the size of your thumb for harvest. So my patch is a little bit further behind. I've never grown from seed. Everything that I've grown has been so far crowns. I would assume that they may self-seed, but don't quote me on that, just because I've seen seed-like things come off of the fronds. I will say the fronds, even when you aren't ready to harvest yet, work great in flower arrangements too. They are a great greenery filler, and I've used that a lot. So maybe that's even put me behind. So maybe don't listen to me. I try not to, cut them all the way down to the base, and I'm not like cutting the whole crop. Other than that, they're super easy to maintain. You don't really have to mulch them. You don't have to. Total 100% neglect. I don't water them. I don't fertilize them. They are very, very easy. They are just a little temperamental on the time of when they can actually start producing. Once that happens, though, you really can't over harvest, which obviously I haven't over harvested yet, but I have done a little bit of reading that you can't over harvest because the plants will just stop throwing up shoots and then they go dormant and they build their energy for the next harvest season.
Well, I'm really excited. We finally have space that we can start some asparagus. So I really want to get some asparagus growing. I'm excited for it.
I would definitely spread them as far out as you see recommended from where you're purchasing. Definitely follow park seed guidelines. I did not. I grew mine before. Right when I bought my house, I just threw them in the ground in one little spot. And I wish I would have spread them out a little bit more. They're not overcrowded per se, but I feel like eventually they may be.
Awesome. Well, that's terrific advice. Thank you. Okay, so again, rhubarb. Oh, we have a question, it looks like, real quick, before we move on to rhubarb. How do you cook and prep asparagus? So, I mean, I've obviously eaten asparagus before. I haven't grown it before, but I do love to a few different ways. We like sauteing them, we like grilling them, air frying even too. I typically mix them with some garlic as well. I love it that way. Laura, do you have any way
Uh,
you love to do it?
I mean, my favorite way, just because I'm a super lazy gardener and lazy prepper, it's I'll go out and pick them and I'll throw them in whatever salad we're eating.
Oh,
I won't even cook them. It's real easy to tell where the asparagus shouldn't be eaten, if that makes any sense. The very bottom part of the stem is typically very woody. You will notice that when you pick it. Just let it snap naturally, and then you don't have to do any other prep other than washing them when you bring them inside. Um, but I also have grilled them and wrapped them in prosciutto, and but raw is typically, I mean, half the time they don't even make it in the house for me to for, for me to even cook them. So they're
Oh,
usually,
this is great advice right here. Cookie sheet with some olive oil,
yeah.
salt, and pepper, and broil for a few minutes. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I love it. Okay, we have a question. So, woody ends, how to cut, break, or shave?
I mean, I just take the asparagus and bend it, and where it snaps naturally is where the asparagus is telling you it wants to be eaten. You don't There isn't a certain inch. Every little asparagus spear is going to be different. You can just chop them off at the end, but then you might be wasting some of the good portion of it eating it. It's not going to be bad if you eat it. It's just going to be real tough. It's very interesting how that works. It's like you really just need to bend it, and as it naturally snaps is where you would want to eat
Great.
it.
Awesome. Oh, we do have another question. What's your favorite variety of asparagus? Well, I do know Mary Washington is supposed to be the most popular one, and I think that's the one that Park Seed carries, right? I'm pretty sure.
We have a lot of them. We have Mary Washington. We have two purple ones. I'm talking, they're purple all the way through, bright
Oh,
purple. So we have green and
speaking my
purple.
language now.
I know, right? Um, we typically have a variety. My think that I've grown, I think, is Mary Washington, but I honestly don't remember.
Nice. Great. Okay. Well, let's move on to rhubarb. So again, I tried to put these two up front because these ones I'm not super familiar with, and I knew I could count on Laura's expertise for these. So I do. Pretty much all I know about rhubarb is that it's occasionally in pies. So, Laura, can you share some with us?
I actually have never grown this personally myself. I have been witness to it being grown. As a kid, I remember picking rhubarb for my aunt, and we would go feed the leaves to the cows because technically the leaves they're not edible. Only the stalks are edible. So they do take about a year for harvest, and I do think that they need some blackout periods in early seasons, which does help that stalk turn that bright red color. I have also heard of people grinding up the leaves and using them as a natural pest garden deterrent. So,
That's fairly interesting. I hadn't ever heard that before.
mhm. I think it's good for like aphids and sucking insects.
Okay. Nice. Well, that's great. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, next we have apple trees. Okay, I love apple trees. We've grown these a few different times. Actually, we planted some in the ground at our old house, and then here when we moved here, we actually had some in some smart pots. So again, this is one like especially if you get like one of the smaller varieties, that's a dwarf one. They're really great to be grown in the smart pots, the fabric containers, and you can move them around, and especially if you move houses or if you're renting or
Mhm.
anything like that, it's the perfect way to do it. um, and then again, with most perennials, you're going to find that you should plant them in the spring or fall because you want to give them time to establish before it gets either too hot or too cold. And then typically with apple trees, the most common way that you are going to find these is by transplanting. Um, and then again, it depends on the variety that you get, but typically this is going to take a few years to harvest again as well.
Yep, you can plant these from seeds. Carrie and I talked about this morning, but they are not true to seed. And your plant is probably going to be likely too successful and will have a lot of disease pressures. Grafting and using grafted transplants are definitely the way to go. These, like Carrie said, great for containers. Apple trees withstand quite a bit of pruning. So you can really keep those to a manageable size and have really nice fruit set. They are particular with fertilizing to get fruit. You do have to have specific types of apples in order to cross pollinate usually. That is something that I've worked to build on Park Seed is some apple kits. So you're ready to go. You have grafted transplants. It's the right varieties for cross pollination, making growing apples really, really easy.
Awesome. So this is a great question. Do you need to have at least 2 apple trees to work?
You do. And like I mentioned, you do need to do research on which ones are best for cross pollination. You can just hope somebody else has those apple trees somewhere else too. But you're going to get a much better fruit set having two. So I do recommend two different varieties and make sure you research those varieties that they're good cross pollination for each other.
Great. Okay. Oh, and then kiwi. I love kiwi. We grew kiwi at our old house, and we had it in and actually one of our long smart pots. They have like these smart pots that are great to put like along trellises or along a fence line, things like that. And we
Perfect.
had a like one of the big long beds, and we had it up against a arch trellis, and then we had 2 kiwi plants. We had a male and a female. And then it was amazing. Unfortunately, we didn't live there long enough for it to fruit for us, but I am excited to be growing more again here soon.
My experience with kiwi was before I even went to college for my horticulture degree. And the vine, even if you didn't know that it needs a male and a female plant, is still very vigorous and very pretty and will cover any trellis and pergola. So, no need to worry. Just go ahead and get yourself whatever the opposite that you need. What's interesting about these is that they are considered dioecious, which means you need a male and a female plant. So one plant's going to have male flowers, one plant's going to have female flowers. So that's why it's important. Again, this is another thing that I have worked to build on Park Seed to offer those kits, so you don't need to know which one to purchase. It is also important to have male of the same species and female of the same species. If you have interchangeable species, you will not get fruit, even if you have a male and a female plant. So trying to eliminate some of that guesswork, making gardening super easy. And fun side note, kiwi are super high in magnesium, and magnesium's all the rage on the supplement market right now.
I just love the taste of kiwi. It is so good, especially to add to smoothies too. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
our favorites to add. I love kiwi.
I add mine fur and all. We don't peel it or anything.
Nice. Oh, and I do want to mention too, Dale and Andrew are working on popping up as we're talking about products. They're trying to pull up as much as they can. So up on the screen, you'll see some of the QR codes for some of the products that we're talking about. So if you wanted to go and check them out and look at them on the Parkseed website. Okay. So next we have blueberries. So I have a few different berry bushes on here coming up too. Blueberries is probably one that, well, I definitely wanted to include because it is a little bit more unique than some of the other ones. You do need to have a fairly acidic soil for blueberries. So what we typically get, Espoma has this soil acidifier for the soil. So whenever you are planting out blueberries, which again I would recommend to do in a smart pot, and that's how we grow all of our berry bushes. And we put them into a smart pot, and then we go through and amend the soil with that Espoma soil acidifier. Yep, that stuff right there that just popped up on the screen. So it has instructions on the back, so it tells you exactly how much you should add for new plantings and all of that. So the instructions are all on that. But that's the biggest thing that I do want to call out about blueberries, because it is something that is unique and needs that right when you're planting it out.
It's organic too, which is always highly encouraged when growing edibles.
Yes, for sure. Oh, I'm a huge fan of all Espoma products. We use a lot of their fertilizers and seed starting mix and all of that. So blueberries, like you can get a harvest within a year sometimes, which actually we did the first time we planted it out. It was exciting. We had these little tiny blueberries. They're super tasty. I love it.
Yep, 1 to 3 years, depending how old your plant is at purchase. I would say most plants on the market are at least a year old. That's just based on working with growers over the years and kind of seeing how long it takes them to get a finished product. I did make a mistake with my blueberries. You really, in the first year, the first harvest, you really shouldn't harvest them. I did. I got almost 2 pints of blueberries, and then the next year I got nothing. So I did a little bit of research because I am done soil testing. I have the acidity correct. It's in an area that is semi-protected, so it's getting plenty of sun, but then also not being damaged by any extreme cold that we may be getting. And I did not get any blueberries my second year, and I was super mega bummed about it. And
I would have been too.
I
Yeah.
did a bunch of research on some extension pages and learned that you really should just pick off the blooms. I mean, you can let them set fruit but it's better to just like knock off all the blooms. And I'm just not one to do that usually. I'm excited. Who wants to knock off all your progress?
I know.
But I did not do that. I plan on doing that this year and hoping to regain. So I am a couple years behind with blueberries, but it was worth it the first year. One of the reasons why I know we're talking about strawberries later, so I'm excited about that. Those are pretty much foolproof. You can eat them right away.
Oh, so Trevor wants to know any tips on starting blueberries from seed.
I have none. I've never started blueberries from seed. I'm too impatient to start them from seed.
Yeah, I bet that would take a while to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one type of my blueberry plants is having a lot of blooms and berries, and which is good, but the plants don't have many leaves. Is this a problem?
Not quite sure where this person is, but typically you're going to see blooms before you see leaves. That's one thing that I have noticed. It doesn't stay like that for very long. I'm in zone 8 and I see that same thing here. You typically see blooms before you start seeing leaves bud.
Hopefully that's great then.
Mm-hmm. Pruning can also damage some plants, causing leaf bud to be delayed. So just make sure you're pruning in the fall only after everything. And you really only need to prune branches that are like crossing each other. So if they're not bothering anybody or whatever, then leave them be. But if they're crossing, then they're typically going to suck nutrients from the larger plant.
Interesting. Okay. What is the best location for blueberry bushes? I assume we're talking zones.
Full sun, 6 to 8 hours maximum. You mean they need it, and I'm almost wondering if I don't have mine in quite that amount. Mine's a lot of afternoon sun, but it gets a lot of shade by a building too. So
yeah, we have had ours at like part shade too. I mean, it depends on the time of year as well too. So yeah. Are we I wonder if we're talking zone wise, like
I mean, they're a cold hardy plant. I mean,
yeah, so
lots of
I would say you can plant them anywhere too, location.
Lots of domestic blueberry farms around the Great Lakes in Wisconsin and Michigan. So wild blueberries are very cold hardy as well. So just watch whenever you're doing your research on the variety that you want, just pay attention to those zone recommendations. If you're growing in a pot, I do recommend to try to grow at least 2 zones colder in a pot just because the root systems are not protected like they would be in the ground. Especially like here in the South. So if I'm zone 8, for example, I would try to find a variety that's at least cold hardy to zone 6.
Huh, interesting. Okay. Okay. Blackberries. So these are probably these are one of my favorite. I won't say my favorite because strawberries are my favorite, but blackberries would be my second favorite berries. Just because they're so easy and they are so prolific. I love blackberries. You can plant them and they will just take over a trellis.
Mhm.
Like they do incredible. I love them. And you'll find wild blackberries all over too, just because of that reason too. They're so easy to grow. They're so simple. Um, we don't do much whenever we plant and start blackberries, which is good for me. You can plant them and leave them alone, and then you'll get a whole bunch of blackberries from them, and they are so tasty. I would recommend getting a thornless variety though too, especially if you have kids, because it makes it a lot easier,
Mhm.
because then the kids can go through and harvest all that they want. And there's a lot of different thornless varieties of blackberries that we really enjoy. So I would highly recommend looking at those too.
I got my first blackberry. I've got a whole row of raspberries, but I've got my first blackberry plant this past year, and it has moved twice already, and it seems to be doing okay, but we'll see if it's found its permanent location or not.
Oh, I saw a question pop up real quick a little bit ago of asking about how often should you fertilize blueberry plants?
Once a year is typically what's needed, and it's in the fall. So it's kind of reverse of what you would do for most other plants when you would fertilize first thing in the spring before new growth. Every place that I've seen it recommends that you fertilize in the fall.
And I did see they pop. Yep, I was gonna say, and they popped up the Espoma fertilizer, and we use this as well whenever we are planting out, like especially with the blueberries. We use this Espoma fertilizer for the berries.
I need to be better about that. I fertilize my blueberries and that's about it. I don't really fertilize much else. And I should, but I haven't I keep getting harvests. So
That's great. That's awesome. As little as needed is great.
right.
Okay, grapes. Okay, so I'm going to count on Laura's expertise again for these, because I actually haven't grown grapes before, but I am really excited to do it now that we have space here. And I know Park just got a whole bunch of new varieties of grapes too that I am super excited to try out.
Yes. So I haven't personally grown grapes, but I went to school in the East Coast wine country of Southwest Virginia. So Virginia now has surpassed California for wine acreage.
Oh
Just a
wow.
fun note there. It was huge in my degree program, and there was minors, and so I did take quite a few classes on grapes, and have been in a lot of agricultural research centers where they're growing grapes and learned a lot about it. It's very, very interesting how these come back every single year, and they're fairly easy to maintain. You really just need to have proper pruning techniques. And they're probably one of the simplest things to prune. I get all kinds of confused when it comes to pruning raspberries because of the first growth, first year growth, second year growth. It can be a little overwhelming even for somebody who's in the industry. But the grapes that we've added to Park Seed this year, we've added a lot of seedless varieties. They're all good for fresh eating. And I did focus on a lot of home vintners or doing home wines and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different varieties that are good for juicing, good for wine producing. So we have the gambit right now, and we're selling them in a fashion that you're going to get a really good harvest. They are a monoecious plant, which means you don't need to have anything cross pollinating. They do need pollinators, but they don't need a different variety. Typically, I would recommend growing the same variety together. And if you choose to grow additional varieties, to make sure that they're not quite as close because you really don't want any kind of cross pollination going on. It won't really hurt it, but you may not get something true to type. But most people will grow one section of this and one section of that, and that's okay.
Awesome. Yeah, that's probably what I would do because I want to try like each one out. I want to try different varieties, different colors. Like there's so many options out there.
Yeah, I plan on trying them, getting them going probably this summer where I am. But most important thing with grapes is start with a good trellising system. Don't wait till the last minute. Start there, then get your grapes. Trellising is very, very important. The vines can become very, very heavy, especially if you don't intend to prune, which is fine. You're still going to get grapes if you don't intend on pruning anything, but the vines are very heavy. You want long-term stability.
Okay, great. Looks like Kevin was asking a question. What is the best way to control Japanese beetles on grapes?
I personally use Milky Spore. I should probably rotate it more with something, but I typically just find myself using that once or twice a year. Physical management is important too, just picking them off, knocking them off, spraying them off. But Milky Spore will help them from burrowing and developing grubs and completing their life cycle. And it's 100% organic and natural. I haven't used traps yet, just because I've always worried that the pheromones will bring more.
That's what I always worry about with traps like that too.
But I've seen really good success with traps, so it's not something that I'm against. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, goji berries.
This is all you, Carrie. I don't have any expertise here.
Well, I love goji berries, and we honestly got goji berries because we had no idea what it was, and we wanted to try something unique and different. And so we got our goji berry. It's been a few years ago now, and we planted it in probably about a 20-gallon smart pot or so. And I honestly do hardly anything to it at all. Honestly, I do like nothing. And it does so well. And it produced, like, you can see these pictures up here. They're like little teeny tiny, almost like Christmas bulb lights.
Yeah, they look like little light bulbs.
Yes, yes. And they're so unique. I love them. They taste so good. We literally never got them inside the house. We've never brought them inside because we always eat them all outside. We just pick them off and just start snacking. It's kind of like a mixture between, I want to say like tomatoes and I don't know. It's like a really, really extraordinarily sweet tomato. So it would be amazing to put on a salad if I ever got them inside the house. That's my plan. But I just like to just snack these.
They're a superfood. They have a ton of minerals and vitamins in them, like in high concentrations.
Yeah, for sure. I highly recommend trying out goji berries. They are incredible. They'll do really good part shade to sun. Again, this is going to be one that you want to start by a transplant. And planting in the spring or fall will be best. And like I said, I put mine into a smart pot and it works really well. So I would highly recommend doing something like that.
I'm going to have to try that.
Yes, you do. And strawberries. It's funny, we actually just finished planting a whole bunch of strawberries here. Yesterday, actually, we were doing that out in the garden. We did we did one of those big vertical towers filled with strawberries, and then also planted out huge, like the big round raised beds from smart pots with some bare root strawberries. So I'm really excited for those. And then we actually started strawberries from seed for the first time this year as well too. We had always done transplants for strawberries, so I was really excited to try growing strawberries from seed. So I'm excited to see like the difference, if there's like a taste difference or something. I don't know. Do you know if there's any sort of?
I have never grown them from seed. Again, I will put it out there. I am a very impatient gardener. I like to see my stuff happen quickly, and I get bored till I move on. I have never personally done it from seed, so I'm interested to know how the plant progresses and like how
Yeah.
soon you get runners and stuff like that from a sciencey standpoint.
I will keep you updated on them. They're pretty small right now. My seeds that we started, they're pretty small. And then the other ones we did are bare roots. And this is actually the first time we've done bare roots too, but it's supposed to be like within a few weeks, you're supposed to just um, have it look just like a regular transplant, which is great.
I'm kind of learning about strawberries trial by error. Where I am, it's heavy clay. We're talking red clay is where I'm at. You have to do a lot of fortifying to the soil to have a plethora of different types of plants or just, survives. I have done nothing to my strawberries. They literally were bare root crowns. They got planted. I didn't get much the first year, but I did get some. They were not very big. So I just let them ride, let the birds and stuff eat them. My second year, I mean, I had strawberries for months and we just pick bowls of strawberries. Very little fertilizing. I do have them growing around my blueberry bushes. So whatever fertilizing the blueberry was getting, the strawberry was getting because I wasn't very careful. I'll be 100% honest. Um, and I'm very excited for this year because last year, my year two was really when I saw a lot of the runners. And that's what you really want to see because that's where the blooms will be. That's where the fruit's going to be coming from. I've seen my plants overgrow my bed that they're in, so I'm potentially going to think about trying them as a ground cover. Um, just because they seem to really like this clay, portion. And sometimes it's very, very wet here, but then we go through months of dry periods too. So that's why I've enjoyed strawberries. They aren't as big as the ones you get in the grocery store, y'all. You can get huge ones. They aren't going to taste good. You want small, moderate berries.
Yeah, and I will say too, like the first time that I tried a strawberry from our garden as opposed to the grocery store, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it really tastes like it's like rolled in sugar. It's so much different. It's so sweet, so good." So that is definitely something you can totally tell the difference from when you grow it yourself.
Yeah. We definitely sell strawberries. Park Seed sells strawberries. Go find them.
Yeah.
We have
So
lots of them, and they're all at least a year old. So we're already getting you a jump start.
yeah, so this year too, like we Dale and I got all like every single variety that Park Seed sells. I think it was 6 different varieties that they have, something like that. And so we are trying every single one of them out. And I'm really excited, especially for like the Park Swapper ones because those are supposed to be really good. I love doing those. And then we have a mixture of the June bearing versus like the ever bearing. So then hopefully we'll get like a whole bunch of them at once and then also just sporadically through the season as well. I'm hoping to have a good variety of all of them.
I look like I'm looking away from my camera, and that's because I am. Just let you guys know, full disclosure, I'm being honest. Somebody asked about which produces the largest fruit. Currently, I would say it's the Parks Whopper strawberry that probably has the largest fruit. I would say, I think Seascape might have some larger ones, but overall, they're going to be pretty similar. I do believe Everbearing tends to be slightly smaller than June bearing, but not huge differences. You're gonna just trust me. You're gonna call grocery store strawberries trash berries, like me and my husband. Once you start growing, once you start growing them yourself. So, and it's one thing that I've learned. Like I still, I mean, be honest, I still buy stuff from the grocery store sometimes. We all do. Nobody can be perfect and grow all of their food.
I would.
Right. But I think that's part of the thing about what I've learned about growing my own food is that it's seasonal. It's not designed so you have strawberries all year round. So enjoy what you have and have fun growing it and then get excited about the next season.
So this is a great question. Can strawberries grow in pots? And I'll say absolutely. we have a mixture of strawberries, right? Literally every strawberry that we have growing is in a pot of some sort or a container. We grow a lot of ours we use the Smart Pots fabric raised beds for the big round raised beds. So is it 48 inches diameter? I think that's the
I
one.
think it is. The biggest one I think is 48 inches.
Yes. So we do those ones, but you can honestly do any of the size. They have a mini, like a 24-inch, 36, and 48 diameter, and they are perfect for strawberries. Absolutely perfect. And we just plant them out, space them out in there, and we let the strawberries just take over the entire round raised bed. It is amazing. I love it.
I saw someone mention that they're growing strawberries as erosion control. You are
Oh
my best. You are my best friend. Friend. I
yeah.
love stuff like that. Just stuff that is not typically grown for an edible purpose still works. Like that's fine ecosystem work there, my friend.
Okay, so when and with what should strawberries be fertilized?
I would just do the Espoma berry tone. I mean, tried and true, great company, great product. You know you can eat it.
Yep, for sure.
When I'm not sure because like I said, I'm the lazy gardener. Hello.
So
I
the
need a
app does
t-shirt that says lazy
mention,
gardener.
yeah, the app does have some information too about fertilizing, and it'll say like how often you should be going in um and fertilizing when and using things like that. Okay, so we have a question. So bare roots are tricky. Half of mine made it. I did a mix of everbearing, Juneberry, and alpine. So I will say that we actually, before we got the Parks one, we tried getting some other bare roots from other stores. And I will say that they did not look terrific, so we didn't plant all of them. But then when Parks the strawberries came in from there, they looked a lot better. So I'm wondering if maybe it's like a quality thing. I know Park Seed takes really good care of all of their stuff, and they have like just everything refrigerated, and they have perfect environment for all of this stuff. So they looked amazing. So we planted every single one of them. So I think they're all going to be successful. I can't tell you for sure, but I will say I think that they will be really good.
Yeah, Parkseed has strict quality control on everything as far as maintenance. Whatever we get in is evaluated and looked at before we are shipping to our customers. So, take peace in knowing that. If you're seeing bare roots that are typically dried up or really, really small, that's usually just it didn't make it in the shipping. You won't really see that from Park Seed very much, but you might see it from other places and like independent garden centers and big box stores, which are typically getting them in not as fresh. I wouldn't say that they're poor quality, but they're typically dug and shipped and
Yeah.
in
And
mass
they're just
quantity,
sitting
and
on
they're
the
sitting on
counter.
a shelf,
Yeah.
right? That's not temperature controlled, not humidity controlled.
Yeah.
One thing that I would say, if you do see that, try planting it up in a pot to see if it makes it. When you have really small root systems like that at first, they don't like to be fighting for things. You got to baby them. I think that's why my strawberries did fairly well, because I ignored them in a container just to see what would happen to get them growing. And I'll be 100% honest, mine were not from Park Seed. They were very small, did not look great, and I really did have to baby them. And the ones that survived are now the ones that are growing prolifically. So I think getting them acclimated in that dirt to just start growing, it just allows the root system to be babied a little bit before you go and throw it in the garden.
That's great. That's good advice. Cindy wants to know, do strawberries need pollinated?
They do need to be pollinated, so you have to have bees and ants and all those things growing or crawling all over your strawberries. That's what you want. They don't need a cross pollinator though, so you can grow the same variety across your entire property because it's the only strawberry you like, and you'll be just fine.
Great. Yeah, I would say I grow a whole bunch of strawberries. So honestly, like I wouldn't even know if I needed to have a whole bunch because I always plant a whole bunch because I want to have a whole bunch of strawberries.
Yeah.
Okay, can I plant strawberries outside when it's still so cold here in 6B?
So technically strawberries are perennials. Take note on the variety that you're purchasing and what zones they are for. Um, they do die to the ground in northern zones, so you do have to pay attention to that. Um, I, if you're growing bare roots, you can get away with planting them sooner. If you have a transplant per se, I would wait till after frost.
Yes, that's good advice. I do know that you can plant out bare roots a little bit sooner.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then we started seeds indoors too, so
Yep.
obviously that was a lot sooner. Um, yeah, but I would say like you can do that as long as you can work in the soil. You can plant
Hmm.
away your bare roots.
Bare root strawberries can handle colder soil temperatures. They won't even really start growing until the soils warm up, but you shouldn't damage anything.
Right. Okay. Next we have rosemary. Okay. Rosemary is, well, this is one of Dale's favorites. So I had to put it for Dale because he loves it to both cook with and also just the smell of it. And it's so pretty. It's evergreen. It's so nice. And then it's the smell. It's like, oh, it's intoxicating. It smells amazing. And then we actually had one this like over the winter in our sunroom that was blooming with flowers too. It was incredible. I'm a huge fan.
Mine is blooming right now. I have never propagated it before, but I'm kind of obsessed with our biodome, and my goal is to have something in it all summer long, regardless of it's time to plant or not. So I'm going to experiment with some propagating
Awesome.
in my biodome. I'm pretty sure you guys have done that for sure
We
with
did.
yours.
We were the same as you, but we did it over winter because we're like we want to have something growing all winter long. So we propagated out an entire biodome of like half rosemary, half thyme, and it did amazing. They did so well, and they took over those biosponges, and we had to actually up pot them because they were taking off. They did so good.
I remember in college we did a lot of propagating, and the teacher taught us, how to make mistakes. He didn't tell us what to do, so we propagated from all different portions of the plant.
Oh
So one thing that I learned is the newer growth is gonna propagate better than the woody growth.
yes,
My rosemary plants here, they love the South. They love South Carolina. They love the clay soil. They get huge. So, I mean, some of these stems, they're like woody tree trunks. Nothing's going to propagate from that. So, you got to make sure you get the softer, newer growth.
yes, that's great advice.
I have an issue with white flies on mine sometimes, and they typically will be during the wetter portion of the spring season, but then they bounce back later. I don't spray anything on them because I want to eat it, So, but they kind of get a chlorotic look, and then they bounce back in a few
Interesting.
months.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of our herbs are just they're very good, like very resistant to
Hmm.
a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend propagating rosemary if you're going to be growing rosemary or getting transplants. Seed, you can definitely do it, and we tried it this year, and we're actually like able to do it with a biodome. But before, we were never successful. So if you have like the perfect environment, which the biodome is perfect, that is where you should do it. So my husband loves rosemary. I bought a small plant last year, but it hasn't gotten very big. Do they need a specific fertilizer?
No, I personally don't think they need fertilizer at all. If your plants aren't growing, typically it's not a fertilizer issue. It's usually a soil structure issue. So make sure that you're not overwatering it. Rosemary doesn't like a ton of water. They actually like it on the drier side. Um, So look at that. Always take a look as best you can with the root structure. Make sure you have white, healthy roots, and do a soil test. And make sure that your soil maybe is not too acidic or too alkaline. Um, you have to be within certain parameters in order for it to uptake nutrients on its own, regardless of it being fertilized or not.
Yeah, I will say rosemary is pretty slow growing also
It
too,
is.
so it
Mhm.
may just be the normal growth as well, because they don't grow super fast.
And they like heat. They like some heat. So, they're great rose companions too. I've got all mine planted at the base of roses right now. Um, because they keep the roots of the roses cool and kind of absorb some of that heat, and they cover up rose bare legs and stuff like that.
Oh, that's great. Okay. We're kind of running out of time because I want to answer some questions at the end. So I'm going to, aha, out of time. It was an accident, believe it or not, but it worked out too perfect. Running out of time.
That seems a little punny.
Yeah, so time. I love thyme. Thyme is honestly just like salt and pepper for me. Like you can use thyme in anything and everything. It's amazing. And again, this is one that does really well with propagating as well. But you can still do it with seed. Again, we did that first time this year too. That was exciting. But it's still really small. So propagating is definitely a lot faster. So once you have a variety or a plant that you like, propagating is going to be a lot faster for you.
Thyme is getting added to my garden this year. I try to do
Yes.
at least one or two new herbs every year, like perennial herbs, so I don't have to do them all at once. But I'm hoping that it'll turn out real well.
Yes, for sure. I love thyme. And I will say too, I love to put this. I do actually have a really, really large thyme plant in one of the large types of smart pots that we're giving away today too. And it's just like it took over the entire thing and it just like trails down the sides. It's so pretty. Or you can put it like on the end of a bed, and it'll kind of like trail over the side. We've had them in window baskets before too, and like having them like come down. It's really pretty. I love it. They're also a really good companion plant for a lot of different plants as well. Is thyme perennial in colder climates? Yes. I mean,
I think so.
thyme is very easy to grow. We've never ever had any issues with our thyme coming back year after year here in Zone 7 at least.
I mean, I think it's cold hearted like zone 5 from what I
Right.
remember. I remember growing up with thyme growing around. So can it be divided once you get a bigger plant, Carrie?
Oh, Dale says yeah, it can.
Okay. That's my favorite way to start new things is just chopping them in half and planting them somewhere else.
Yeah, once they get too large, like we will create new plants and just like start trimming it too. And
Mhm.
but oh, it's so pretty. I love it. Oh, and Carol loves lemon thyme. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, let's try and go to the next one. Okay, oregano.
I'm glad we got to this one. This is my favorite.
Oh, we skipped oregano. Oh, there you go. So oregano. Well, if it's your favorite, I will let you go because you go for it, Laura.
I mean, I love oregano. I've grown it from transplant, I've grown it from seed, both equally successful, both super easy. I have raised beds. I have cut my oregano bushes. I'm going to call them bushes now because they're just that big of mounds in half every single year for the past 3 years. And they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They are great for cooking. It's great for salads. It's great for pizza, salsas, everything. Um, my husband and I, we make tinctures out of oregano. This keeps us from getting sick. Um, it's an antibacterial, antimicrobial. It will kill anything. And we are huge oregano users in my house.
Along with pest management too. Like it
I
will
have
help
had
with pests.
zero problems. You would think rosemary would also have zero problems because it's just so fragrant. I have never had any bugs. I've had oregano grow in fire ant mounds. It just is indestructible. So plant it as a ground cover, plant it somewhere where I would say it's slightly aggressive. I don't, it can be pulled and managed in that way more so than mint could be. But I would still, plant it in areas where you want it to just fulfill air, just space.
Awesome. Okay, last but not least, chives. I love chives, and I had to put a picture in here of the purple flowers on chives because that's probably one of my favorite parts about it. It is not only so these flowers are not only edible, they taste incredible. I love them. And my kids love it too because they get to eat purple flowers in their food. They think it's the coolest thing ever. Um, Pollinators absolutely love it.
Mhm.
It's super easy to grow. And again, like Laura was talking about with oregano, it grows really fast and it'll take over a pot. Like so we grow these typically in like the smaller the mini smart pots and then just let it take over the entire thing. I because we can never have too many chives. I use it all of the time.
And do they just reseed the flowers, spent flowers? Do they reseed and just come back every year?
Yeah, it just grows and spreads. Yeah, and it will take over like how much ever you want it to. Not quite as bad as mint, like we were talking about too,
Right.
but still, like I love chives. I mean, we can never have enough chives, so we just let it take over where it wants to.
I might put these in some of my ornamental beds and just,
Absolutely, they're
you know,
so pretty too. Like, and you can eat them, and they're amazing companion plants too because they repel a lot of pests, just like garlic and onions too. So Mary wants to know if there's different kind of chives, and yes, there are. So there's garlic chives and onion chives. I love both of them. I'm a fan of both of them. Um, yeah,
I recently learned that actually because I have some seed packets that I just haven't thrown in the garden yet and haven't put any focus on. So I need to get those out there.
yeah. Okay, so Sharon wanted to know what size are the mini smart pots you're talking about for chives? Um, is it the 24-inch? Is that what they're called? Is 15? Okay, 15-gallon. Yeah, 24 inch. Okay. Yes. I was right on that. So these are the ones I was talking about that we use all the time for chives. They're a little bit flatter than like the other pots, shorter, I mean, and just it's a lot easier to maintain. Okay. So we have been talking a lot. My goodness. Because there was just I told you guys, there are so many different edible perennials in there. I this was even a narrowed down list. I had to take down a lot of plants because we had so many. And I apologize. I wish we could go through and answer everybody's questions. Hopefully I'll be able to so after this is over, come back in, put your comment into the chat so that way I can hop in and answer any questions that I didn't.
They can also ask Growbot questions too.
Yes. Also, go in and ask Growbot if you don't already have the From Seed to Spoon app too. It is in From Seed to Spoon on the corner. We also have a standalone Growbot app as well. If you search in iOS, you will find Growbot, and you can ask any sort of gardening questions you want there. And Growbot has great responses, so I use it all the time.
Somebody's requesting perennial edibles part two.
I love it. Okay. Well, we might need to do a part two of it. Cover all the ones that we didn't get to chat about today. Awesome. So we are going to be having three different winners today, which is exciting. So we're going to have one winner for our free 1-year premium From Seed to Spoon app subscription and a 20-gallon smart pot, and then we have two other winners. Oh, Dale says they all get both. So wow, that's incredible. We have three winners for all of it. That's exciting. Okay, so who are the winners? Let's find out. I get to find out too. Some young guy. Congratulations, some young guy. Email us at info@seedtospoon.net and you can get your free premium From Seed to Spoon app subscription as well as a 20-gallon smart pot, which you can use for all of these plants we talked about today. It's awesome. Who else do we have? Terror Cav. Hopefully I said that right. Congratulations. Again, email us and we will get you set up. And one other, Miss Alex M. Congratulations, all three of you guys. That's super exciting that we had 3 winners today. And so send us an email at info@seedspoon.net. We'll get you hooked up with all of that stuff. And we do this every single week. So join us again next week and for more fun chats, for more giveaways, all of that. And we also, we're always on Instagram, TikTok, yeah, pretty much all of the platforms we're always on, posting reels and updates on our garden and showing you everything that we got going on too. So hopefully you guys will all join us again next week. And maybe at some point we'll do a part 2, Laura. Sounds like we need to do one.
I'm down.
Well, thank you all for joining, and we will see y'all next time.